Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Big Four podcast. Today is a big day. We have a guest here, Luke, who is a Florida fan. The other Luke will not be with us today. I don't know where he is. Alex, of course, is not here as usual. But we're going to start from the game last week that surprised a lot of people. Michigan State beating Michigan. Mike, you have the floor. Just say what you need to say.
Well, it was the margin was too close. I expected a blowout. I expected Michigan State to absolutely destroy them. The fact it was close was embarrassing. Mel Tucker should be fired. That was a horrendous game for Michigan State. But in all seriousness, very good win. Bad loss for Michigan. From the Michigan State side of things, I thought the coaching was brilliant on both sides, especially.
Would you think it was brilliant when you were throwing your hat, yelling at the TV at the end of the game when they wouldn't take a knee?
Yeah, it was brilliant. I mean, that's on Fox. Speaking of Fox, shout out to the Michigan lover, Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. I mean, they just couldn't get enough of Jim Harbaugh. They wanted to pull his pants down and just go to town on him the entire game. I don't think they said Michigan State once. It was just all about Michigan. Post game, nothing about Michigan State. Just all about how Michigan got screwed by the refs. They spent about 20 minutes on that. So shout out to Fox. Shout out to Fox for not knowing the timeouts either. That was ridiculous. But listen, like I said, I thought the game plan was brilliant offensively. We had like 7 or 8 guys to protect because Michigan's pass rush is good, and we only had 3 guys go out in the pattern usually every down, and Michigan still couldn't cover it. I mean, that's just embarrassing. You had 3 guys from Michigan State on the outside, and 1 guy just kept beating your great. He was probably a 5-star corner. Probably should have been a 2-star. That Gray kid, he was terrible. But I think the most shocking thing was Michigan State. They were the more physical team on both sides. Your offensive line was garbage. They were just terrible, and our defensive line played really well. And Rocky Lombardi, who is better than your quarterback. Your quarterback is garbage and can't read a defense to save his life. Rocky Lombardi was just brilliant all day.
I think it comes down to coaching. They run the same play on offense every time when they pass. It's a quick slant. Okay. So how is that Joe Milton's fault?
It's not my fault. Your quarterback can't read the defense enough to actually try to throw more in the quick slant.
Well, it's not his fault they don't call the other plays.
Oh, give me a break. Listen, Michigan State's defensive plan I thought was pretty good. They basically were saying Joe Milton beat us, and Joe Milton couldn't do it.
And all you did with Rocky Lombardi is throw the wide open receivers. Joe Milton had to hit tight windows all day.
Tight windows? Listen, half the time they were wide open. All Michigan State was doing was letting them catch it, get 5 yards. We'll take that. Michigan had to dink and dunk their way down the field because Joe Milton was afraid to throw the ball over the top.
No, they didn't have anybody running over the top.
He was horrible.
Didn't have anybody running over the top.
What did I say coming into this game? I said Michigan State has the coaching advantage. I said they have the quarterback advantage, and they have the defense advantage. And that turned out to be true, especially the quarterback advantage because Rocky played really well. I didn't know that Michigan's DBs were going to be that bad. I mean, they didn't play horrible against a pretty good Minnesota wide receiver core. But my goodness, that was just completely and utterly embarrassing. But this win means a lot. It means a lot for Michigan State in the recruiting aspect. I mean, we already got 2 guys who were Michigan leans who switched over to Michigan State leans. We got a guy committed to Michigan who is going to switch over to Michigan State in the next couple of weeks. This is just a huge, huge win for recruiting in the state of Michigan. And I expect in 2 to 3 years, Michigan State will be owning Michigan in terms of recruiting, which has never really happened. But I expect that to happen, especially if Harbaugh just continues to bang his head against the wall. I said Harbaugh needs to stop banging if he keeps banging his head against the wall and keeps doing the same things, Michigan State's going to overtake Michigan in recruiting, and they've already done a very nice job this recruiting cycle, having less than 6 months to get a class in. They've done a pretty good job there.
Luke, you want to jump in on this?
I watched some of the Michigan State game. Probably one of the worst college football games I've watched in a long time. quarterbacks missing throws everywhere. Defense is just it was pretty standard. Michigan should be embarrassed. I mean, Michigan State's a horrible program nowadays, and Michigan should be absolutely embarrassed. They should fire Harbaugh. Both programs are terrible. Both will end up 3-5.
Yeah, and Mike, I want to explain something to you so you understand, because I don't think that you're comprehending the fact that Michigan State was better than Michigan for a lot of the last 10 years, and Michigan killed them in recruiting every year. Right. Michigan will never get killed in recruiting by Michigan State.
No.
And Joe Milton's better than
we had Mark D'Antonio for 13 years. That guy couldn't recruit a paper bag.
Okay, Mike, why can Mel...
We have a real coach.
Oh, yes, so Mel Tucker, who was 37th in recruiting in the country when he was at Colorado. What a brilliant,
which is the toughest,
brilliant recruiter.
The hardest recruiting regulations of any program in
no
Power
excuses,
5.
No excuses. And Michigan State has any great recruiting. They're second in their state for everything.
We're going to flip 3 Michigan recruits.
All right,
so,
we're done with this. We're done with this lunacy. We're moving on.
Michigan recruits always suck. So Michigan only gets good transfers.
The reason why Michigan recruits suck is because when they get there, they get all arrogant. They get taught the Jim Harbaugh, the Michigan way. Once they come to Michigan State, they'll learn how to actually play football.
This was just, that Saturday was just a great day for Ohio State, just to laugh at the Big Ten.
Yeah, and speaking of Ohio State, let's move on to that game.
No, what do you do? No.
Yes, we're moving on.
No.
What do you want to say?
I'm going to talk about the quotes that you came up with last week from the podcast. You ready? Let's start with me talking about the Rutgers game. I said we are not as bad as we played, and then Chris comes out and says that's a lie. You're an 0-8 football team. So that's a lie from Chris. Chris said that Mel Tucker is on the hot seat. Chris said Rocky Lombardi sucks.
He does suck.
Yeah,
he's the best quarterback in the Big Ten.
They were talking about Rocky Lombardi as if he was having a great game. I looked at the stats. He was 4 for 13 for 80 yards.
Yeah, he also was had an average of 20 yards per attempt.
He's wide open. The guys are wide open, Mike.
Wide open. Did you see some of the dimes? The first touchdown. Did you see the play
to
down
a wide
the
open
sideline?
receiver? Yeah, it's great. You can show the
line?
receiver that has 4 steps on Vincent Gray.
It's just a battle between.
That's not my problem. It's not my problem. Your defense sucks.
Absolutely brutal.
That has nothing to do with quarterback play. Okay. What else did you say? Oh, Rocky Lombardi. I said Rocky Lombardi's better than Joe Milton. You laughed at that. It's not.
He's not.
Joe Milton
He's
sucks.
not.
He's horrible.
He's not better
He's
than
terrible.
Joe Milton.
Chris said we had an easy game this week. I'm not worried. He should have been worried because Michigan should have been a lot more than 3. We had plenty of chances to.
Mike, I have a question for you. You act like I'm the only person that said this when I don't think I've heard one human being that picked Michigan State to win the game.
Oh, listen, I did last week.
No, you didn't.
Yes, I did.
No, you didn't. You jokingly said MSU would win, and then we got to the picks, and you're like, "Oh, I'll actually take Michigan."
No. This is a quote from me. I think MSU wins.
All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to be muting you now because we're moving on.
Michigan State is the worst team in the Big Ten. You also said that as well. Didn't quite work out, did it?
I'm going to mute you here if you keep talking about this because we're going to move on. We'll move on to Ohio State and Penn State. Penn State kind of hung around, but Ohio State gets the job done. Any reactions to this game? Luke, you want to go first?
On Ohio State, Penn State?
Yeah.
Just another classic display of pure dominance from Ohio State. Justin Fields is automatic. What was he, 29 to 33? Great quarterback play, great offensive line. Their defensive line, again, is just outstanding per usual. They're DBU. They got great corners. They're going to be in the college football playoff. They're going to go undefeated, and we'll have to see. They're just a dominant team. I don't think it holds anything against Penn State. I think Penn State played okay, but it's definitely a rebuilding year for them.
Mike?
No, listen, you can say what you want about Ohio State. They're the best team in the Big Ten. No one disputes that. I'm going to go in on Penn State because James Franklin is a terrible coach and should be fired right now.
Agreed. James Franklin's an absolute joke. I'm still on him for that 4th and 5 draw play.
Yeah, I talk about that all the time.
Unbelievable.
They try to tell me that was an RPO. It gets me so mad.
That was not an RPO. That was a draw.
You read it wrong. Terrible quarterback.
How could it? It was not an RPO. They should have just had McSorley throw it down the field. That was an awful play call.
Yeah. With
Chase Young and didn't they have Bosa on that defensive line? Awful call.
Yeah, he's a terrible coach, and coming off a loss, I expected Penn State to be ready for this game. And what happens? They immediately get down 14-0 just like that. That just shows, James Franklin didn't have his team ready for this game. That's a joke. I don't care if there's no fans in the stands. This is your season if you're Penn State. If you start the season 0-2, it's just over. The season is over for this Penn State team. The way where they are, you're like, what is this, like year 7 for James Franklin, year 8? I mean, come on. That's unexcusable. And Penn State, they haven't found a quarterback yet. Their defense without Micah Parsons has been not great to start the season. They were okay against Indiana. But, listen, Ohio State was just on autopilot the entire game. There was no chance Penn State could win the game at any point, starting from the first drive of the game. It was embarrassing.
I think you're being a little too harsh on Penn State. I think it's a rebuilding year for them. They graduated a ton of seniors last year that were standout players.
There's no rebuilding years if you're Penn State. There's no rebuilding years.
What do you think? Penn State's the greatest football program of all time?
They're a good program.
They're a solid program. They're not A+.
They're a top 10 program.
They're an A- B+ program.
There's no excuses for this.
No, they're an A-, B+.
I don't buy that. They have plenty of returning starters.
How many 5 stars and 4 stars did they commit from last year?
Probably a lot. They're probably in the top 10 recruiting.
No way.
Yes, they're always top 15 to top 10 every year in recruiting.
Yeah, Mike, I'm with you here, and I'm done. I don't understand coming into the season and last year the hype of Sean Clifford. This guy sucks. Let's be honest.
Better than Joe Milton.
No, he's not.
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Sean Clifford.
Yeah,
I remember last year after the Michigan game, a game that Michigan should have won, by the way, that people were going, "Oh, Sean Clifford, what a quarterback!" The guy was throwing a KJ Hamler wide open.
Penn State was 15th in recruiting.
Good class. Guy was throwing a KJ Hamler wide open every time. This guy's not a good quarterback. They haven't found a quarterback. They had Trace McSorley, and they didn't do anything with him because James Franklin's a terrible coach.
No, Trace McSorley regressed.
He was always good. He was a great.
Trace McSorley went to the Rose Bowl. He won the Big Ten.
As a sophomore, and then as a junior he was good, and as a senior he sucked.
No, he was very good as a senior.
No, he sucked. And he went 1-3 versus Michigan State. So,
all right.
Didn't Michigan State go to the playoff when he was there?
I think that was the year before. I don't know. But anyways.
Hackenberg was still the quarterback. He might have been a freshman.
All right. That's enough of this. We'll get a little more Big Ten scoreboard here, and then we'll move into some larger college football takeaways from last week. Let's start with Mike's favorite team, Iowa, as they lost to Northwestern, who looks increasingly better.
Petrus.
Yeah, Spencer Petrus. Tough game. Indiana beat Rutgers. Purdue, close win over Illinois. I'm telling you, Mike, Lovie Smith keeps his teams in games.
Okay.
And Minnesota last Friday lost in overtime to Maryland. Tough game. Reactions to these games, Luke. Go ahead.
Well, I watched some of the Iowa game, and Petrus looks like a middle school quarterback out there throwing the football. I mean, he's just missing wide open receivers. And the Purdue's a solid team. They'll hang in there. I think they'll be like a 4-4 team. I don't think you expect them to be anything better than that. And Minnesota's a joke. Oh my God. You get blown out by Michigan, first of all. That's absolutely embarrassing. And then you lose to Maryland on a missed extra point, too. Unbelievable.
They don't have a kicker.
The Big Ten this year is a pretty big joke. Seeing last year, they were up there with the SEC. And now this year, they've regressed a lot.
Mike?
Yeah, I wasn't very high going into Minnesota, coming into the season for Minnesota, because I thought they had a lot of pieces to replace, especially on the defensive side, and it's really showing. They cannot defend a piece of paper right now. I'm sure the University of Maine would put up like 55 points on them. It's just, I don't know. They changed defensive coordinators. The offense looks okay, but it's still not as good as it was last year. Tanner Morgan doesn't look great. That's a good win for Purdue. Listen, anytime you beat a rival, that's a big win. How about Iowa? I mean, I think this is Kirk Ferentz's last year. I think it's just time is ticking for him.
Yeah, he's going to Michigan.
No, he's done. No one's going to hire him for anything. His son's done in coaching too. No one's going to hire his son for anything either. They've been running the same offense for the last 30 years, and they haven't innovated at all. and it's really showing. They threw the ball like 50 times in a driving windstorm at home against Northwestern. The Blue is 17. It's just a joke of a program right now. Listen, I don't, like Luke said, I don't think Petras is very good. He has been playing well to start the year. Maybe, he's got a big, strong arm. Reminds me of Nate Stanley a little bit. He's just very inaccurate.
He's got a strong arm. He just looks very timid out there in his first two games.
One throw he'll just put a dime on his receiver, and then the next throw he'll just airmail it 30 yards into the stands. So I don't know what to think of Iowa. I think they might be a tough year for them. Indiana, that's a solid win against Rutgers.
All right, yeah, I'll start with Minnesota. They definitely are a fraud. I fell for them. That's my bad, and this just further proves Michigan isn't very good. What a game for Talia Tagovailoa. What a guy. And as who said it, Mike? He really reminds me of Tua. Great comparison. Who said that?
Yeah, Jesse Palmer.
Jesse
right?
Palmer. What a comparison. The only thing Minnesota can do is run the ball. They've done nothing else well in the first 2 weeks. And PJ Fleck is on the hot seat. That's an embarrassing year so far for Minnesota.
Right.
Indiana, solid win. Purdue, great win over Illinois. Illinois is a great team. And then it's Northwestern game. I've been high on Northwestern all year. I think they're a really, really good team. Peyton Ramsey, that's my guy. Great quarterback.
He threw the ball like 8 times the entire game.
Yeah, he actually threw it 18 times. He was very good. I don't know what Iowa's doing. 50 times, throwing the ball 50 times. That's just not who they are. What are they doing? And I gotta blame Kirk Ferentz for that. I like Kirk Ferentz, but what are we doing here? All right.
Kirk Ferentz, like Luke Hill said in the last podcast, he just gives the ball to the running back and hopes he can get a few yards. That's their run scheme.
Yeah.
They don't have any run scheme.
Exactly. All right. Let's go over to the Big 12, which may have effectively eliminated themselves from playoff contention, with Oklahoma State losing a very good game to Texas. There's some other games here. Oklahoma won, TCU, Iowa State, West Virginia blows the doors off Kansas State. Reactions to any of these games? Luke?
Talk about an irrelevant conference. I did not watch one of these games. I saw the end of the Oklahoma State-Texas game, and you could just tell by the momentum that Texas was going to win that game. It was a typical Big 12 choke at home of a team that's not a big program like Oklahoma State. Similarly to like Baylor from last year when they lost to Oklahoma. Big 12's a joke. Thank God they won't be in the playoff this year. Oklahoma's always an embarrassment. And, I don't know. Just very excited that the Big 12's finally going irrelevant.
Like?
Listen, Mike Gundy's a very good coach, but in big games, his teams just don't seem to show up. Let's take a look at the stats from this game, because this reminds me of the Penn State-Indiana game. Oklahoma State outgained Texas by 300 yards and still lost. They had 4 turnovers in the game. Listen, there's no excuse for losing that game if you're Oklahoma State. They dominated the game, and they literally just gave the game to Texas. And this is probably, I don't know if this is the best, this is probably the second best team Mike Gundy's had there. And there go their national championship and playoff hopes, just right there. They're gone immediately just because of that game. And I've been telling Chris for the last couple of weeks, I think Oklahoma's still the best team in that conference.
No.
And it is an irrelevant conference, but I still think Oklahoma's going to win it. I think Oklahoma State, they always lose to Oklahoma every year, and they'll do it again this year.
Yeah, I'll start with that game, I guess. And like you said, Mike, that's a game OSU should have won. They're clearly the best team in this conference still. They're still going to win the conference, I think, with ease. They're the best team in this conference. So I don't really take anything out of that game other than their playoff hopes are gone. As for this West Virginia-Kansas State game, what in the world happened in this game? I guess we were on it because we both picked West Virginia, Mike, last week, but my God, they got blown out, Kansas State. And
the law of averages. The law of averages.
Law of averages, that's right. And, I don't really take anything else out of this conference because it sucks.
Yep.
All right.
I agree.
Let's move on to the SEC.
Yes, sir.
Scoreboard from last week. Let's see here. All right. Wow, what a thrilling win for Georgia. 14-3 over Kentucky. Mike, I'm going to need a thorough explanation of that when we get to that.
Sure.
Auburn blows the doors off LSU. I also like a explanation for that one, Mike. Ole Miss over Vanderbilt. Alabama over Mississippi State. Mississippi State looks increasingly good as the weeks go on. A&M keeps their playoff hopes alive, and they look really good. Big win over Arkansas, and Florida beats Missouri. Obviously, we got the Florida-Georgia game this week. We'll preview that a little later. Luke, any takeaways from the SEC last week?
Oh, yeah, one takeaway I had was this was definitely a game that Texas A&M could have lost. It was definitely like a sleeper game, and I think they took care of business. They handled it well. That they've kind of showed me that they are actually a team that can compete for the playoff, depending on if Bama loses to anybody, which, I mean, at this pace right now, it just does not look like it. I have a quote from you from the first week when you said KJ Costello was the best quarterback of the SEC, and oh my God, has looked absolutely horrendous. I don't know. I think he has similar stats to Cam Newton. Oh my God, unbelievably horrible. And look at Georgia, man. What in the world? 14 points against Kentucky. And I hear all the analysts, well, Kentucky actually has a good defense. Like, oh, they're actually a good defense. If Florida doesn't take care of business this week, I mean, I'm going to be so embarrassed. 14 points. Stetson Bennett needs to get benched. Where's JT Daniels? Where's JT Daniels? I don't get it. And, oh my God, LSU. I hope Florida puts 60 on their head this year. I mean, Bo Nix put up 48. Like, you got to be kidding me. And then, of course, Florida took care of business against Missouri at home. They had that huge brawl. Deservedly so, but we lost one of our pass rushers, which, I mean, obviously, as you know, our pass rushers are elite. You know, they're all elite. So losing one of them is not going to help a lot for the first half against Georgia. But I think we'll be okay. Seeing Bennett's in the pocket, we probably won't even have to blitz, and he'll still make poor decisions. But that's my main takeaway. I mean, Alabama's still the best team, and Florida and Georgia, whoever wins, is going to be in the SEC championship.
Mike?
Yeah, the Georgia game was it was a classic Kirby Smart, just bleed the clock away because he didn't want to make a mistake. And that's not an excuse because Kirby Smart knows his offense is horrible, and he knows the only chance Kentucky had to win that game was turnovers. So what did he do? He just ran the ball into a brick wall the entire game, and they found a way to get a win because Kentucky could not move the ball at all. So that's a classic trestle ball, Kirby Smart, old school Nick Saban type win for Georgia.
Yeah, but they usually win those games like 56-3.
Well,
they don't like.
Wasn't
in the past?
Wasn't it last year? Last year they beat Kentucky 14-0. I'm pretty sure.
Really?
I mean, I believe so. Kirby knew the only way Kentucky was going to win was turnovers, so he played basically as conservative as possible. The Auburn game, shout out to Coach O for saying that his defense is going to be better this year. My good God. Bo Pelini is the worst defensive coordinator in the history of college football. I've never seen a defense worse than the defense that LSU has this year. They are just horrible. And we saw the absence of Miles Brennan. It was big. Miles Brennan's a very good quarterback. I'm not saying they would have won if Miles Brennan was there, but it would have been a lot closer. That was just embarrassing. Alabama took care of business. Looking at the stats for the Alabama game, and looks like Costello got benched again because he was only 4 for 11. Either that or Will Rogers got the start, and he got benched. But either way, that's Chris's guy, Costello, is he's talk about a guy who is ruining his NFL stock. After the first game, he was like a fringe first-round pick. Now he's not even going to get drafted. I mean, just terrible.
10 interceptions, 6 TDs, and he's got a 38.9 QBR this season. Unbelievably bad.
And that's a good win. Florida taking care of business. I give credit to Florida. I thought the game was going to be a lot closer than it was. No. Thought Missouri was playing very well.
Let me tell you something about Florida nowadays. Ever since the Dan Mullen era, they finally found a way to take care of business of the bad teams. They just need to get over the hump of getting the big win. But as a Florida fan, it's very nice that I know we're not gonna get upset, if you know what I mean. Like, we know how to take care of business.
You lost to Texas A&M.
But they're a top 10 team.
Then they're better than you. So
they're a top 10 team in the country.
All right. Georgia, embarrassing win for Georgia. Stetson Bennett needs to be benched. Mike, this guy sucks. He can't beat Florida. They cannot beat Florida with this guy playing quarterback.
I mean, they beat Florida with Jake Fromm, who couldn't throw the ball more than 5 yards.
Whoa. That's because he converted 14 third-down passes in that game last year. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, he did. He played well.
It was unbelievable. I was watching it. I was like, how is he completing every single one of these passes? I was like,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
Jake Fromm was just awful before the Florida game, and he played really well against Florida, and they won the game. And then he sucked for the rest of the year.
Exactly.
Yeah. Auburn. What a win for Auburn. I was all over that, Mike, last week. That was my lock of the week because LSU is god-awful. They are horrible. Bo Picks. What a game for Bo Picks. I'm telling you, this guy gets 3 odd years at Auburn. This is a big get for Auburn, and they look good right now, even though they should be 2-4. That's okay. The Lane Train keeps on moving. Big win for Ole Miss.
How about Matt Corral?
Yeah, he's very consistent. Alabama. I'm telling you, Mike Leach needs to be fired. They run the same play every single time. That's why KJ can't complete a pass. And if he had a better coach, he'd be winning the Heisman.
No.
Good win for Florida. And I want to talk a little bit about A&M. I know Luke Hill was on them at the beginning of the year and jumped off them immediately when they got blown out by Alabama. But this team has a great chance to win the rest of their games. And if they do, I think they have a great shot at making the college football playoff, especially with Florida and Georgia. They're going to the winner of the team who plays Alabama is going to have 1 loss. So if they lose to Alabama, then A&M has 1 loss, and they have a great argument to get in the playoff.
The best case scenario for Texas A&M is if Florida beats Georgia, because I feel like Florida has a way better chance of beating Bama than Georgia.
Well, I think that
I
would say that their best chances. Well, if either one of them loses.
Chris.
To Bama. If Georgia or Florida lose to Bama in the championship game, they both
oh, yeah, you're saying they lose in the SEC championship.
And especially if Florida lost, because then A&M would have the head-to-head.
Well, think about it, though. Clemson undefeated, Ohio State undefeated. Those are 2 locks. Bama and then Texas A&M, depending on what Oregon does.
It depends on what Notre Dame does. If Notre Dame wins this week.
Notre Dame's got no shot.
Well, I
Chris, you think Texas A&M is going into Auburn, the last game of the year, at Jordan-Hare and beating Auburn on the last game of the year?
Mike, are you forgetting the last number of this year? It is an even year. This is an even year.
A&M's beating Auburn.
It is an even year, but Auburn should be like 2-5 right now.
They're not, because Gus has his magic.
They've been gifted 2 wins. You could say the magic is there. Because they've been gifted 2 wins.
Yeah, the magic is still there, but it's not as much as usual, or else they'd be making the playoff.
Kellen Mond's going to throw a touchdown, and then they're going to call it like pass interference on offense or something, some random penalty, and that's going to win Auburn the game.
And then Kellen Mond will attempt to throw, and the wind will blow it all the way back into the end zone, and Auburn will recover it for a TD.
All right. Let's move on to the ACC. I don't know why we're talking about the ACC, but it's on here.
Boston College, baby. How about the Eagles?
BC.
How about the Eagles?
They almost beat Clemson.
They did. They won the first half. That's a win.
In a Falcons-like fashion, they blow the game.
Ranked Boston College. Only lost by 4 to UNC and lost by 6 to Clemson.
Well, UNC is struggling. UNC loses to Virginia. Virginia Tech over Louisville. Notre Dame, big win over Georgia Tech as they get ready for this week. And I'm not even going to discuss the other games here.
What a win for Duke. What a win for Duke over Charlotte.
Yeah. Duke. Reactions to these games? Luke?
I mean, Boston College, seeing my whole family went to BC, always got to represent. They played a great first half, but everyone knew they had no shot. Just Clemson just out-talented them. And how about all the penalties in the second half? Just absolutely brutal calls to keep Clemson alive. It's whatever, though. This is a good game they put up. They gave some entertainment. Trevor Lawrence being out definitely didn't help in the first half. But what's the guy's name? DJ? I'm just going to call him DJ. No one knows his last name. He's legit. He's the real deal. He's a great quarterback. And, I think they're going to be fine with him. And then, do we even need to talk about any other ACC game? They all suck. They're irrelevant.
Mike?
I got to shout out Dave Clawson and Wake Forest. Right. They won 4 in a row. This is supposed to be a rebuilding year for them. They lost Jamie Newman he was going to go to Georgia, and they didn't end up playing. But they're 4-2 right now, and they're winning the games that they're supposed to beat. They beat Syracuse pretty handily, beat Virginia Tech. No one expected them to win that game. So just shout out Dave Clawson, very good coach there at Wake Forest. What happened in North Carolina, Chris? My goodness. Coming into the season, they went 7-6 last year. people were overhyping them. They're still a very young team, and they don't know how to win road games. Even though there's really no fans, they still don't know how to win road games. And this is a game they couldn't lose. Virginia's not good at all. They're terrible, and they still found a way to lose that game. BC getting out to a 28-10 lead and then losing it. I mean, got to shout out Dabo there. I mean, this is the difference between Jim Harbaugh and Dabo Swinney. There are a lot of differences. They both get similar rated recruits in there, but the difference is when Dabo's teams get down big to a team they're supposed to lose, or they're supposed to be, they always come back and win.
Really?
And Jim Harbaugh always loses. That's what happens.
Did you see the players on Clemson? You're saying those guys are like the same guys that Michigan gets? No way.
No, but they're the same average recruit. Michigan's recruited better if you look at the rankings the past 5 years.
It doesn't matter. I mean, you need a quarterback to win, and Jim Harbaugh doesn't have a quarterback, so.
Yeah, well, that's on Jim Harbaugh. He's a crappy coach.
No, I know,
he can't find his quarterback. Milton sucks.
It helps when your quarterback goes out and you can just put in the number 1 quarterback in the 2020 class and like just have no problems. I mean, that's how you like you can't. I don't know. Clemson's just so good.
Yeah. Shout out to BC for hanging around. They've done that a couple times this year.
No, there are no moral victories.
Hafley is one of the best coaches in college football.
Yeah.
Once he gets a little bit of talent in there, they're going to be dangerous. And then he's going to move on from BC because he's way too good to be coaching at Boston College. He's such a good coach.
I see him in the NFL in like 3 or 4 years.
I agree with that. How about Testator?
Oh,
getting under center. What a play call.
I'd like to formally decree that I am off the North Carolina bandwagon. I'm done with them, and I will only talk about Clemson this week. The only thing that the BC game showed me is that the path for Notre Dame to make the playoff is open, and it is there, and they need to take advantage this week against Clemson. We'll see what happens.
Until they play Boston College and they lose. Which I think Notre Dame will lose to BC.
All right, we're going to move on.
When you're putting up 14 points a game with Ian Book.
We're going to move on after that absurdity. Okay, we will preview some games, but before we do that, the Pac-12 is back this week. Who's going to win the Pac-12?
Oregon.
All right. Mike, who wins the Pac-12?
I think that this game, Saturday, big noon, Arizona State, USC will decide the Pac-12 South. Yeah. So whoever wins this game, right now I think USC is going to win the South. I think they're the most talented team. Arizona State's building something. They're recruiting very well. Herm Edwards, very good coach. I still think they're a year away. In the North's got a lot of good teams. That's a sneaky good division. I don't think there are really any bad teams in the Pac-12 North. I think Oregon State's getting better. Washington State's consistent. They got a new coach. They'll be decent. Stanford, who knows? They might suck. Who knows? But Washington's going to be good. Cal's going to be good. I still think Oregon's going to win it, but I think it's going to be a just complete bloodbath. I don't think there's going to be an undefeated team in the Pac-12, so I think that the Pac-12's playoff hopes are basically zero right now.
Well, even if there is an undefeated team, I'll still take them as basically zero because the Pac-12 sucks. But anyways, I do think ASU has the edge in the Pac-12 South over USC. USC's good. I like the coaching advantage. I like the quarterback advantage for Arizona State.
I don't.
And I'm looking at Oregon in the North. I think they do win the North, but they did lose a lot.
Jaden Daniels better quarterback than Slovis?
Yes.
No way.
They lost a lot. Oregon lost a lot last year, so I'm going to take Arizona State to win this conference.
Oregon still has all their they just had the best class last year.
No, it doesn't matter. Those are all young kids.
No. Did you see that kid? What's his name? Thibodeau or whatever that plays the O line.
They're all young.
No,
they're all young.
No, dude.
They're all young.
See Justin Flo?
They're all young.
Dude, no.
They're all young.
They got Anthony Brown there, quarterback.
Wow, Anthony Brown.
Wow.
Yeah, okay. Arizona State's winning this conference. All right. Let's move into some previews, and then we'll get to the picks. All right. Why are we previewing Michigan State and Iowa?
Because Petrus.
Because I'm a Michigan State fan, so we have to preview it.
Oh, okay. Luke, do you have any thoughts on Michigan State and Iowa this week?
It's going to be one of the worst games of the week, no doubt. It's just going to be a slugfest. I mean, Iowa's a solid team. They're good at all places. They just seem to be struggling in the second half this year. Michigan State coming off a big win. Honestly, I don't know. Anything could happen. I don't know enough about both teams to really comment on it. They're both really irrelevant.
Mike?
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. It's a classic Big Ten slugfest matchup. Two defensive-oriented teams. Iowa's got a very good defense. Michigan State, last week they played very well on defense. Still a lot to be seen there. I've flip-flopped on this game for basically the entire week. Iowa 0-2. They're going to come in here motivated. And if Iowa does lose this game, I think it's over for Kirk Ferentz easily. So I think there's going to be a motivating factor there. Michigan State coming off the big win. They might be. It was an emotional win. You wonder, are they going to be ready for next week? I think they will be. I've seen a lot from this program. Like the past 8 times we beat Michigan, we're 7-1 in the next game after that. So I think we'll be ready. It's very interesting. I think that Iowa's defense. I think they're going to be able to play pretty well. Are they going to be able to cover all of our newfound weapons on the outside? And for Michigan State, if we can stop the run there, I think Petras making him beat you, I think, is definitely the strategy because I don't think he can. So it's going to be a very interesting game. The line is Iowa 7.5. I think I would take Michigan State in the points right now easily. And I'll give you my prediction later.
Petras is definitely a good over-the-top thrower, though, so we'll see if Michigan changes their defensive schemes from last week.
Yeah, I don't really have much to say about this game. These two teams suck. But as Mike says, talent means everything, according to you. So Iowa has more talent.
Yeah, and Amir Smith-Marset is out because of the DUI he got.
Well, Iowa has more talent. I'll give my prediction for later, but that is that's my preview of the game.
Do they though?
Yep, they do. All right, next game. Michigan.
Sure we were higher in the talent index, Chris.
Okay, I don't care about the talent index.
I do. I care about the talent
Michigan
index.
and Indiana preview. Luke.
Indiana, very good team. Michigan, not a good team. Indiana.
Mike.
Well, Chris hates it when I use the law of averages argument, but I'm going to use it today. Indiana got extremely lucky week 1 against Penn State. They were dominated on both sides, and they found a way to win. Credit to them. Last week, they played decently well against Rutgers, but they didn't play that well. I mean, they found a way to get a nice victory, a cushion, a nice, easy victory there. But, I mean, Rutgers, they're okay, so that's a fine victory. But this week, I think Michigan they're just going to be able to do a little bit more. I think Michigan, that, what's his name, Joe Milton, I think he'll be able to pass on this defense a little bit better than last week. I don't think Indiana's defense is that great. I think Penix is good, but I think the Michigan defense is going to be able to tee off on them. We'll see if Indiana is able to do what Michigan State did. The only reason why Michigan State was able to avoid the sacks and the pressures was because we kept 8 guys in to protect. And we only sent 3 guys out in the routes. So that should be pretty easy to cover. I don't know if Indiana's willing to do that. If they are, maybe they'll be able to get some big plays on this defense. I don't think that's going to happen. I think Michigan's going to come back, and I think they're going to win this game. I think they're going to win by 10-plus points.
This is what happens. Every time Michigan loses to Michigan State, which I don't remember too many of them because they're so...
9 of the last 13
Yeah, well,
years.
most of them are so ancient. But
Yeah,
I remember a couple of years
13
ago.
years.
I remember a couple of years ago when they lost to Michigan State, and you were all over Michigan. How great a team Michigan was for the rest of the year. This is what you do. This is
What are you talking
This
about?
is your thing. This is what you do.
What are you
No,
talking
I
about?
remember. I'll pull the clips.
Did we even have a podcast back then?
I don't know, but I'll pull the clips. Anyways, Michigan's not a good team. That's the bottom line. Indiana is a good team, the 3rd best team in the Big Ten. I think they're going to dominate this game. All right.
Well, as you say, you got to look at the talent. Michigan's got
No,
way
Indiana
more talent.
Indiana has more talent. Okay.
No,
Well,
that's ridiculous.
Let's move into the games that actually matter this week. We'll preview a couple of games there. Florida and Georgia. Luke, preview this game.
The biggest test in this game is going to be Florida's offensive line versus Georgia's defensive line and picking up pressures. If Florida gives Trask time to throw in the pocket, his receivers are going to get open downfield, and Florida's going to move the ball effectively. This is going to be one of those games where Florida's really going to not have to turn the ball over like they have a couple times this year. I think the running game is going to be taken out of equation. Last year, Michael Pirine had under 10 yards rushing against Georgia, and clearly the running backs we have are not anywhere near Pirine's standard. On the defensive side for Florida, our corners need to step up. We'll see if Marco Wilson, Donovan Steiner play after last week's absence. Brad Stewart had a great week last week, is coming in for Sean Davis and Donovan Steiner, and I think he's going to be an impact player again, as he's made so many big plays in big games. He picked off Joe Burrow to seal the game in the Swamp a couple years ago. He's a good player. Watch for Florida trying to put some pressure on Bennett early, sending linebackers, sending about 7 or 8 guys, challenging Pickens to get open downfield, which I think Elam's going to have a solid game with Pickens, seeing of Bennett's inaccuracy. So I think Florida has the talent advantage in this game at the skill positions, but we got the Florida's offensive line needs to limit Georgia's defensive line, and the defensive line needs to get some pressure for Florida.
Mike?
Well, as Chris knows, I've been all over Georgia this entire year. I've been saying they're going to beat Florida and beat them pretty soundly, but I think some circumstances have certainly come up.
Oh.
The number one circumstance for me has got to be just how many injuries Georgia has sustained on both sides of the football, especially on defense. In a game where Georgia's defense is going to have to dominate to win, you're down 4 or 5 defensive starters. It's going to be tough for sure.
Where are they
and
down? Where are they down
Georgia
at? Where are they down at? Are they down at corner, or where are they? Do you know?
I know what Count's not playing. They got a couple defensive linemen out.
That's good. That's good.
Yes, so I don't know. I mean, I think that coming into this game, Florida's looking decent right now, at least for my prediction. I was all over Georgia. Bennett has not played well. I think if Georgia's going to win, it's going to be like a 13-10 type game. Georgia's defense is going to be dominating. Florida's defense has not been good this year, but I think they showed relatively good improvement last game against Missouri.
Look for Brenton Cox to be a big-time playmaker. He's a transfer from Georgia. He led the team in sacks there as a freshman, so look for him to be out for revenge.
Listen, I think, people say a lot about how George Pickens is great. Well, George Pickens hasn't been great this year. He hasn't been able to get separation like those Alabama receivers have. One thing to look for, and usually in these big games, I take the team with the better quarterback. That's usually how I roll. And the reason why Georgia lost to Alabama was because of how great Alabama's offensive line played in that game. Florida's offensive line is not as good as Alabama's offensive line. I'll be interested to see how much pressure Georgia's going to be able to get on Kyle Trask on Saturday. But right now, I think Florida's got the slight advantage as of now.
Yeah, I agree. Like you guys said, the pressure on Trask is huge in this game because the run game, you can never run the ball in Georgia. Mm-hmm. And this is the biggest test for Kyle Trask in his entire college career this week.
Well, up to now, I mean, at LSU last year was the biggest game he's ever played in.
Yeah, but he wasn't any sort of proven quarterback by then.
That's true. No,
he's supposed to be a big-time quarterback now. This is his challenge. This is the week. He needs to win this game. Dan Mullen needs to win this game, or else there's going to be major problems at Florida. Mm-hmm. That Georgia.
Yeah, this game is Jim Harbaugh's 2016 versus Ohio State.
If Dan Mullen doesn't win this game, I think he's a great coach, one of the top 5 coaches in college football. He's going to be on the hot seat. If he does not win this game, he should be on the hot seat.
Yeah, I don't think he's top 5, not even close. He's all right.
He's 5 better.
He's kind of, I call him Jim Harbaugh of the South. That's because he hasn't been able to win big games.
You give me 5 coaches better than Dan Mullen.
I can give you 5 coaches in the SEC that are better than Dan Mullen.
Really?
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay.
He's all right. I mean, he just reminds me of Harbaugh. He can't win the big games.
Harbaugh's a hothead. Dan Mullen's a motivator. Dan Mullen's an offensive genius. Harbaugh is not an offensive genius. How does he in the slightest remind you of Jim Harbaugh?
Because he can't win big games.
In the results category, they both teams usually, or both guys usually win the games they're supposed to win. Mullen did it at Mississippi State. He's done it at Florida. But both really don't win the big games. And Mullen, I'll give Mullen credit. He does win more big games than Jim Harbaugh, that's for sure. But that doesn't take much.
Yeah. And I'm looking at Georgia's defense here. And like you said, Mike, they have some guys out. If this isn't the week or the year that Mullen and Trask beat Georgia, they're never going to beat them. Mm-hmm. This is it. This is the year they need to do it. And they are right now the better team. They're playing better. Georgia's struggling. Stetson Bennett is god-awful. Mm-hmm. There's no way, in my mind, that they can win this game without having a fluky win unless he is not playing quarterback.
And listen,
Listen.
Okay, you go.
If Florida plays defense the way they play defense against A&M, then I don't think Stetson Bennett's going to be too bad. Yeah. Now, if they play defense like they played against Missouri, I think it's going to be trouble for Stetson Bennett. I mean, Bennett's shown that he can be competent against bad defenses. When you play a defense like Kentucky, he's really struggled. A defense like Alabama's not that great.
Okay, Alabama doesn't have a good defense. He was horrible.
He played okay.
He was gone. He was terrible.
Hold on. Despite what you guys are saying about how Mullen can't win, hasn't won a big game, all that, Mullen, they don't get blown out in games. They're ready to go. They're ready to go, especially on the defensive end of big games. So, I mean, look for the Florida's defense to be ready to go. And I agree with if they play bad like they did against A&M, then Bennett's going to be just fine in there. But I've seen them too much. They're going to be ready to go. And then watch on the offensive side for the ball, Georgia to try and limit Kadarius Toney. He's been on an absolute tear recently. And I feel like Florida's going to try and get him involved with a couple of these, touch passes, little flip, reverse things. Because you can't run the ball at Georgia. You can't. So they're going to have to try and get the run game going in other ways. And I don't know what you guys think. What do you think Kyle Pitts' stat line is going to be this week?
Depends on who they want to take away. Do they want to take away Toney or do they want to take away Pitts?
Well, if you take away Toney, you still got Grimes, Copeland, Henderson. They
got to pick someone. They can't let him beat him.
It's either Pitts or Toney.
Florida's got some good weapons, but Alabama's got way better weapons. And Georgia did struggle against Alabama. I don't know if they're going to be able to take away anybody. They might. I think if I was them, I would take away Pitts and see if my veteran defensive backs can stay one-on-one on Toney. I mean, we'll see. I don't know. It's with some guys out. I don't know what Kirby's going to want to do. It'll be interesting to see.
The thing about obviously Bama's got better weapons than Florida, but so Toney's obviously the one receiver, and then Grimes is the two, but then 3 through 6 to 7 receivers, they're all identical, which is great for Florida. They got great depth at all offensive positions. So I mean, we're just gonna have to see what Kirby does. I think the way he plays is what's gonna determine this game. How Georgia plays, not how Florida plays, because I think we know what Florida is.
All right,
this is 100% a must win for Dan Mullen. 100%.
Absolutely,
can't lose this game.
100%. Or he's on the hot seat. I'll be on fire Dan Mullen train. Fucking love the guy.
All right, let's move on. Clemson Notre Dame preview, then we'll get to the picks.
No one cares.
Go ahead.
No one cares.
Okay,
no
Mike.
Clemson. No one cares.
Mike.
Listen, Notre Dame, very good team, but talent-wise, I don't think.
Hold on a second. Didn't you say Pittsburgh was better than them a couple weeks ago?
No, never said that.
Oh,
never,
okay.
Never said that.
Yeah.
Notre Dame sucks.
No, they don't.
Listen, Notre Dame, I think this is the best Notre Dame team that, what's his name?
Brian Kelly.
Who's the coach there? Brian Kelly's ever had. I'm pretty sure. He's been there for 20 years.
The year they went to the playoff was the best team they ever had, and they got blown out.
Listen, that team that went to the playoffs wasn't very good. They played a terrible schedule. They barely beat teams. I think this Notre Dame team's decent. I think Ian Book holds them down. I don't think he's that good a quarterback. And I don't think their weapons are very good either. I think Clemson has a huge advantage. Now, with Lawrence out, is what's his name? I call him Ukulele, but I don't think that's how you pronounce it.
I just call him DJ.
But DJ. I don't think DJ's going to have to make some mistakes because I think Clemson's got advantages all over the football field. Notre Dame's going to have to run the football. They've got that big offensive line. They're going to have to move the ball. Kind of do what Michigan State did against Ohio State in 2015 and just kind of bleed the clock, control the game, don't make too many mistakes. But I think Clemson has a big advantage in this game coming in my opinion.
Obviously, this would be an easy pick if Lawrence was playing. This becomes a very, very intriguing game. Notre Dame has looked good in the last couple of weeks. Ian Book has been playing well. He's a veteran quarterback. The guy does not make mistakes. You can say what you want about him.
You also can't throw the ball more than 5 yards.
Yeah, you can. I was going to say you can say what you want about that, but the guy does not make mistakes. He does not turn the ball over. Clemson
turns the ball over on downs.
Clemson. I was not impressed with Clemson last week. They played a horrible first half against BC.
They were looking ahead.
No, I disagree.
BC's going to be
The quarterback is not there for Clemson, I don't think. I think Notre Dame has a great chance in this game, and if Notre Dame is going to make the playoff, obviously, they have to win this game.
I don't know what you guys think, but I think Clemson is the better quarterback in this game.
All right. We're going to move on after that embarrassing
They
statement.
certainly have the more talented quarterback.
All right, that's enough. Sure. That's enough of this hypocrisy, lunacy, I should say. All right. On to the picks.
Hypocrisy. Let's talk about your hypocrisy.
All right, on to the picks. Mike leads the picks somehow as he calculates all the picks. It's very suspicious. 60...
What's more suspicious, me counting the picks or the state of Michigan or the state of Pennsylvania counting their ballots? What's more suspicious?
I don't know. I think the picks are up there. I'll tell you what, they're both suspicious, but the picks are definitely up there. 62 and 26 for Mike. I'm in second, 50 and 38. Luke, 49 and 39. And Alex, who's still not picked a game all season, 34 and 54. I don't know how did he go 3 and 7 last week without picking a game?
Like it matters.
It does matter. Okay. First pick is tonight, Miami at North Carolina State. Luke.
Miami.
Mike.
Yeah, this is going to be a very interesting game. Very intriguing. Miami's a good team, very good team. They're sneaky. I mean, everybody doesn't really think of Miami now because they really don't play anybody. They played Clemson, got destroyed. But that's their only loss so far. NC State lost their quarterback a couple weeks back. I think Miami's going to roll. Give me Miami.
Yeah, I just refuse to pick Miami because they suck. I'll take NC State.
I hate Miami.
Yeah, and that's why I put this game on here.
Yeah,
and you wonder why you're 12 games back and you make picks like that.
You gotta take Miami.
No, I'm taking NC State. All right, BYU at Boise State tonight.
Great game. Two good teams. Boise State. Something about that field. They just get it done there all the time.
Shout out to the Mountain West. Their new TV deal. They got FS1 as their main TV.
They'll actually be moving to they'll be the CBS 3:30 slot when the SEC leaves CBS.
Oh, listen, that'd be a huge win for the Mountain West if that happens.
Mm-hmm.
Which it definitely wouldn't happen. I think BYU's got the advantage here. Very experienced team. Good, very good NFL first-round quarterback. I think Boise State's good. I don't think they're number 21 good. I think they're ranked way too high. I don't think they should be ranked. I think Boise State I think BYU is going to win pretty handily.
Yeah, I just have no clue here because both these teams don't play anybody. But I guess I'll take BYU because of the quarterback, Zach Wilson. Really good. I saw he might be going to the Patriots. Recent draft thing.
Please no. Please.
Some guy had him going 3 to the Jaguars.
Yeah, good,
nice.
Good. Go to the Jaguars.
All right.
Don't go to
Air Force at Army.
I have absolutely no clue in this game, but you gotta go. You gotta roll with Army.
Mike.
Yeah, this actually it just got postponed apparently.
No.
All right.
Looking at this now.
All right. Next game, Michigan State at Iowa.
Iowa in a close one.
Yeah, like I said, I flip-flopped on this game all week long, but I got to roll with Michigan State. I think they've got advantages in many places on the field.
I'm going to take Iowa. They're a better team overall, better coach, better quarterback, better everything.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. Number 25, Liberty at Virginia Tech.
I mean, if Virginia Tech loses this game, they got to get rid of the program. I mean, Virginia Tech.
Liberty's ranked.
Yeah. How? They played
know.
Virginia Tech. I mean, they beat them in basketball, but this isn't. Or they beat Mississippi State.
I don't know. They beat somebody.
Yeah. But Virginia Tech.
Liberty beat Syracuse in football earlier in this season.
Yeah, Syracuse.
But this just shows why the rankings are stupid. Liberty's ranked number 25, and they're 15-point underdogs. Just ridiculous. Listen, Virginia Tech's way better, and they should win. But you got to take the Hugh Freeze effect into account here. Very good coach. Liberty will have a top 5 recruiting class in the next couple of years.
All right.
Suspiciously, we'll see.
Yes, of course. Suspiciously, they will. You're right about that.
I think Virginia Tech wins in a close one.
Yeah, listen, Hugh Freeze is a great coach, so that's why I think this game will be close, but I'll take Virginia Tech. All right, big rivalry game, North Carolina at Duke.
Oh, who's playing in this one? Is this Cole Anthony versus Marvin Bagley?
Yes.
I'm gonna take North Carolina. They get the better quarterback. Duke sucks.
Yeah, it seems to me the games that North Carolina have lost, they just weren't ready for. I think they'll be ready for this game. I'll take North Carolina.
Yeah, North Carolina, an absolute rout. All right. Number 23, Michigan at number 13, Indiana.
I'm gonna go with Indiana, just based on the way Michigan played last week and how their quarterback's very inaccurate, doesn't know how to read defenses, and Indiana's at home, not at the big house.
I'm going with the law of averages. I'm taking Michigan.
Yeah, I like Indiana in an absolute blowout here. I think Michigan might opt for the running clock in the second half because it's going to be such a blowout. Indiana. All right. Nebraska at Northwestern.
Who the hell cares?
This is a big game.
Who cares? What is this?
This is a Big Ten podcast.
Nebraska at Northwestern?
This is a Big Ten podcast. We picked Big Ten
Really?
games. Yeah, who do you got?
Nebraska, I guess. I don't know.
All right.
Who cares?
Mike?
So this is a very interesting game.
No, it's not.
This is a very interesting game.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is. I might be watching this game. Actually, it's at 12. I won't be watching this game. But I think, what is the spread? 3.5 for Northwestern. I like the way Nebraska played against Ohio State. You know, they ended up getting blown out.
The usual.
They've got the talent advantage, but Northwestern's got the coaching advantage by far. Doesn't matter where the game is. I think, well, actually, it's an advantage because usually if for a Northwestern home game, it would be a sea of red. Nebraska would just take over that stadium. So it's actually an advantage for Northwestern to be at home this year compared to normal years. I still like Pat Fitzgerald in a very close game. I think Nebraska's coming though, but this year's definitely not it because they'll go like 1-7 this year because their schedule's absolutely brutal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think with the way Wisconsin's getting games canceled and the way Minnesota's looked, I think Northwestern has a really legit shot to win the West. They're playing really well. I think they're going to win this game easily. All right, big noon. The Pac-12 on big noon.
Big game.
9 a.m. Pacific time start. Arizona State at number 20 USC.
I like USC. It's gonna be the best game. It might be the best game of the day, depending on how the game ends. I think it's gonna be a shootout. I think USC is gonna win like 45-42 right at the end of the game-winning field goal.
I think the spread for this game is ridiculous. 10.5 for USC.
Oh, yeah.
That's unbelievable.
I think that's way I high. I like USC to win the game, but I think Arizona State's going to keep it within 10 easily.
Yeah.
USC wins by like 7 maybe. I'll take like 35-28 USC.
I like Arizona State to win this game maybe by a field goal. They're the better team, better coach, better quarterback. Arizona State. All right, 3:30 on CBS. Number 8, Florida. Number 5, Georgia.
Let's go. Roll Gators, baby. Gators going to win by 10 points. 31-21. Go Gators. Dan Mullen's big win. Let's go.
Well, I've been saying on this podcast that Florida has the advantage. With that being said, I'm taking Georgia, 16-13. Give me the Bulldogs.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I think Florida wins this game in a blowout. I think this is going to be the most disappointing game of the week. I think Florida's better. They're going to blow the doors off Georgia and get right back into the playoff conversation.
Well, keep in mind, Chris, you also said Michigan to beat Michigan State by a record
margin. All right, so we're going to move on to the next game. Minnesota at Illinois.
Again, who cares?
This is a Big Ten podcast. This is a big game.
Illinois. Illinois.
I'm taking Minnesota. Illinois has too many COVID-related players out.
See, how am I supposed to know that?
Yeah, that's a great.
Who cares?
That is a good point about Illinois. I'll tell you what, though, is Peters playing this week?
No, I'm pretty sure he's out for 3 weeks at least because he got COVID.
Never mind. I was going to take Illinois, but Brandon Peters isn't playing. Lovie Smith keeps it close, but I'll take Minnesota. Pittsburgh at Florida State.
Again,
this is a big game.
Two awful teams. I'm so disappointed Florida doesn't get to play Florida State this year. I mean, that would be one of the freest wins of all time. I guess I'll go with Pittsburgh.
Well,
I mean,
well, that's what Michigan fans said, and it didn't quite work out.
But Michigan fans always say that, and they always lose. And it's like that's my
fair point.
It's a tradition. Like I have on my phone it auto corrected every time I type Michigan, it goes Michigan. I mean, it's just a tradition. So Pittsburgh.
This is interesting. Very interesting game. Every game's interesting. This is the game on the slate I just have no idea about. Is Kenny Pickett playing? Nobody knows. Is Florida State going to show up? Nobody knows. Nobody knows anything about this game. I'm going to take Florida State.
Yeah, I guess I'll take Florida State as well. They're looking better and better of late. But I know, Mike, how are you going to pick against Pittsburgh? They were the second best team in the ACC.
Kenny Pickett, as far as I know, he's not playing.
Yeah.
If he was playing, I would have taken Pittsburgh.
Okay. Number 14, Oklahoma State at Kansas State.
Oklahoma State in a blowout.
Well, the law of averages caught up with Kansas State last week, and they got blown out by West Virginia. I think they'll be ready for this game, but the loss of Skylar Thompson earlier this year, it's a big loss. I think Oklahoma State bounces back, and I think they'll win.
Oklahoma State in a blowout. All right, number 7, A&M at South Carolina.
A&M by 50.
Well, I mean, what month is it, Chris?
I knew you were going to say that. I knew he was coming off.
What month is it? No, what month is it?
Oh, well, it's not Cocktober anymore.
It's not Cocktober anymore, so South Carolina's going to lose. If it was Cocktober, I would take South Carolina in a blowout, but it's not. I'm taking A&M.
Yeah, I like A&M. Win this game. They keep rolling. They're in the playoff conversation. All right, here's a great game, Luke. I know you're really interested in this one. UCLA at Colorado.
Oh, man. 7 o'clock on ESPN2. Can't miss.
Yeah.
Can't miss game. This is like a weird game that Chip Kelly would win. Like, you don't think he would win, and then he's going to go 1-6 the rest of the year. So I'm going to take UCLA.
Yeah, I still see Colorado fans in my feed, still salty that we took their coach because they're mad that they couldn't keep him because they don't have the money to. That's their problem. I hate Colorado now. I'm taking UCLA.
I like UCLA. I think they're going to be a little bit improved this year.
I hope so.
I think they're going to win this game. But Colorado will be improved because they lost Mel Tucker.
Right. Mel Tucker is going to be beating Michigan consistently. Or he already is. He's 1-0, but he's going to be beating them consistently in a couple of years.
All right. Tennessee at Arkansas.
I mean, you're kidding, right? Felipe all day. He's going to be on the bump for the Sox next year. He's going to finish out his college career with a win over Tennessee. They'll probably break his ankle in the middle of the game, but he's going to beat Tennessee. Arkansas.
This game is another game where I really don't know much. I mean, Tennessee, it's been just a disaster since the first half against Georgia. They've been playing horrible. They got blown out by Kentucky. They've just been horrible all around. Will they be ready? I have no idea.
They got Felipe.
Felipe, very good quarterback, but I'm going to take Tennessee in this game.
I also like Tennessee. I think Flying Felipe keeps it close, but I think he's looking ahead right now to his Red Sox career, so I don't think he wins this game. All right. Number 1, Clemson, and number 4, Notre Dame.
Clemson. If you pick Notre Dame, you're going to be wrong. These are the games that Clemson do not lose. Clemson.
If Clemson had Trevor Lawrence, they'd win by 35, 42 points. But they don't. I think it's a little bit closer. I think Clemson wins by 20 points.
I like Notre Dame. BC, I think Notre Dame is...
That's unbelievable. That is unbelievable.
And I'm sorry, this is bad news for Florida, I think, the fact that Trevor Lawrence got COVID, because Notre Dame wins this game, they are right in it in the playoff conversation no matter what happens in that second game against Clemson.
Well, we have nothing to worry about because they're going to get blown out.
So this is troublesome for Florida, other teams, but I'll take Notre Dame to win this game. All right. Rutgers at number 3, Ohio State.
I mean, it's real tough to pick against Rutgers in this game, but I think I'm going to have to go with Ohio State. By roughly, it's going to be a real tight 35, 40-point blowout. Ohio State, barely.
Well, listen, Rutgers has some real advantages coming into this game. You look at the coaching advantage; they got a big coaching advantage. Greg Schiano was on the staff at Ohio State for many years. He knows the ins and outs of that team. Offensively, Rutgers has some weapons. Aaron Cruikshank, best receiver in the Big Ten, not even close. Just, and my goodness, can Rutgers get turnovers? They forced 7 of them against Michigan State.
Yeah,
so Rutgers can turn over Ohio State.
I think they have the quarterback advantage, too.
No, they do. They really do. Noah Ventrell's a very good quarterback. Running back, they got, what's his name? Pacheco, whatever the hell his name is.
He's been there for 30 years.
He has been there for 30 years. And Sean Gleason, very up-and-coming offensive coordinator from Oklahoma State. We've talked about him. With that being said, Ohio State wins.
Yeah, I do think Rutgers keeps this close for about a minute and a half in the first quarter. But I'll take Ohio State probably by about 65 points.
Listen, if Ohio State comes into this game not ready, like they have in previous years against Rutgers, they only beat them by like 35 last year when they should have beat them by 80, then Rutgers can keep it within 25 maybe. They might cover.
What's the line?
Let me see.
49. It's got to be 49. That's what they always put those games at.
It is 38.5. Yeah, they'll cover 38.5.
I don't know.
That's my bet of the week.
All right. Couple games left here. Saturday Night Football. The only Saturday Night Football of the year. Well, 0 people will be watching because Clemson and Notre Dame are playing. Stanford at number 12, Oregon.
One of my good friends plays at Stanford, so I get some insider information. We're going to go with Oregon. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, there have been some troubling signs coming out of Stanford's program, not just insider information. I think one of the big red flags for Stanford was when their coach came out and said that the players were glad they weren't playing the season back when the Pac-12 canceled it. Well, that's not a good sign. David Shaw's on the hot seat there, although he probably won't be fired.
He's been on the hot seat since 2015.
The program's gone way downhill. I'm taking Oregon.
I do like Oregon in this game. The only reason this is being broadcast is because Stanford's a big brand, but Stanford's going to get blown out. So
Stanford's a big brand.
They are a big brand.
Yeah, they can't fill their home stadium for a top 10 game.
Doesn't matter. They're still a big brand.
They're Northwestern of the West. That's what they are.
They're a big brand. Louisville at Virginia.
Really? What is this game?
One of the games we're picking.
What am I looking at right now?
Who are you taking?
Louisville.
All right.
Bronco Mendenhall had his team ready last week against North Carolina. They showed some good improvement. This was coming into the year, so this was a rebuilding year for Virginia. Coming off that ACC Coastal Championship last year, and they lost in the ACC Championship game, got destroyed in the Orange Bowl. But listen, they're building something there. He's a good coach. I think he'll beat Louisville. I'm taking Virginia.
This is a classic letdown game for Virginia. I'll take Louisville.
Yeah.
All right, last game. Washington State at...
This is the game of the week.
All right, yeah. Washington State at Oregon State.
Washington State.
Okay. Mike?
Well, Chris knows this. I'm a huge fan of all the teams with state at the end of their names. I love Washington State. I love Oregon State, Michigan State, Florida State, all of them. Love them. Oklahoma State. This is a game I'm very interested to watch at 10:30, and I'm pretty sure it's the only real Pac-12 game at 10:30 because the Washington-Cal game got canceled. Very interesting result because Washington State's got a brand new offense, brand new head coach, Nick Rolovich, coming over from Hawaii. Oregon State, Jonathan Smith, he's building something there. I really, really like what he's doing at Oregon State. They went, where did they go, 5-7 last year, but they were very close in their losses, which for Oregon State, that's great because they never keep it close usually. I got Oregon State winning this game.
I agree. New coach for Washington State this year. It's always tough to win your first game with a new coach. So I'll take Oregon State. All right.
Just ask Mel Tucker. It didn't go very well.
Yeah. Anything else to add before we end?
Yeah, Michigan sucks.
Okay. That's going to do it.
I'll second that.
Thank you, Luke, for coming on. We'll see you next week. Thank you for watching.